Okay.
The first thing said on air.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Harlem Nights. As always, I am here with Mr. Jonathan Reyes. Mr. Jonathan Reyes.
Did it come through? I'm here. Hey.
Mr. Peter Morrow.
What's up?
And Mr. Dave Pecci.
Yo.
And as always, I am finger fumbling, trying to get the live tweet out, or trying to get the tweet out for the live show, while concurrently trying to kick off the episode. So my apologies, gentlemen, for being late. In my defense, I was actually posting Dave and I's Dark Matter podcast from the summer, which we'd recorded and were on the YouTube channel, but not posted on the actual website. So episode 1 of that is up, and I'll be posting more throughout the week. So we're here to talk Luke Cage episodes 5 and 6 in 30 minutes. So episode number 5, subtitled "Just to Get a Rep." And again, I've been also doing the reviews for the site. This is my highest scored episode so far. I scored it a 9.0, just to set the stage from my perspective anyway. How far is everybody so far right now? I'm up through episode 8.
I'm following along with our podcast, so I'm on 6.
Okay, and Peter, you're done?
To 7.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave?
Up to 6.
Okay, so are you doing that deliberately, like Jonathan is?
For the show?
Yeah.
Plus, I'm time managing like other TV shows.
Yes. Yes. So this is so let me talk a little business before we get into the show real quick. So it's an interesting thing, right? And it occurred to me this week because, like Dave mentioned, so I just don't like Jonathan's dog. I just don't like. I hate guzzling content, right? I'm a sipper, you know. I like, you know, the show dropped, and there were plenty of people, and this comes from like my video game background too, right? Because I have lots and lots and lots of friends, like I'm sure a lot of us do, who like a new game comes out on a Tuesday, and like by the first weekend, they've like completed the single player campaign, like the 40-hour single player campaign. So, and I just like that's just not me. And the same thing with these Netflix shows, right? The 13 episodes dropped, assuredly, but like I just wasn't up for like blasting through and binge watching it all like in the first weekend. But because I'm writing the reviews and because of SEO and other things, I feel like I definitely need to be done before the end of the month. However, I did not pace myself so that I beat out the freaking CW premieres, right? So now it's a foot race, right? Because if I'm still doing this when Walking Dead also drops, like I'm just killed. And we're in the thick of the holiday season for games, right? Gears of War and Forza Horizon 3 have come out. Gears of War 4. You know, I just bought Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. Fortunately, it looks like there's no other major release this holiday season other than Battlefield 1. Thank goodness. But, you know, like Dave kind of mentioned, right, I'm getting throttled just with TV. So my question is I originally thought that Netflix was very savvy about when they dropped the show, right, on the 30th of September. That kind of gave everybody like a week and a half, 2 weeks to binge watch it and be done before the CW premieres. But like I said, I haven't maintained that pace. So do you guys think that they dropped it early enough? Do you feel like it should have been a mid-September drop? I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
So I'm actually pretty good with them dropping it when they did. I mean, you know, it gave the binge watchers plenty of time to watch it watch it before anything big as far as superhero shows come out. For me personally, these shows on Netflix are kind of like that chocolate bar in the freezer. I know it's there, and if I know it's there, I want it. So I end up watching them way too fast and eating the chocolate bar.
I love that analogy.
So what about you, Dave?
I'm kind of like Pete, but I don't eat my chocolate bar that fast.
For me, I'm trying to take Luke Cage slowly, because it's just not clicking with me yet still. Whereas with Daredevil and Jessica Jones, I immediately was just hooked. And so I just wanted every piece of it I could, as I was watching it. Whereas with Luke Cage, I feel like I'm trying to I don't want to say understand it, but I'm trying to pull something out of it that I'm just like, okay, now that's awesome. And I still haven't had that moment yet with it. I've had this back and forth with my cousin on Twitter, and just when we talk about Luke Cage, and he compared it to The Wire recently. I've never seen The Wire. I have to, but I don't deny the quality of the show. Very, very well done. Performances are fantastic. But in terms of just as someone who, like all of us with the GWW, we consume all these comic book shows, and the fan service is it's just fun to see some of the things they put in them. Like it could be with Supergirl, you get Superman now, and I mean, I just haven't had that moment yet with Luke Cage. I don't know why.
Right.
I've gotten a little bit of it the last few episodes, but it feels so minimal. Like episode 4 was my favorite.
Okay.
Was that when I saw his backstory?
Yeah, the Seagate episode.
Yeah, it was his yeah.
Okay.
And then I liked episode 5, but then I really liked episode 6. So
Okay.
I feel like it's starting to do a seesaw with me now. So we'll see how it continues.
Okay. And one of the dynamics is, you mentioned all these superhero shows. One of the dynamics is there's just obviously this is an unprecedented point in history, right, with all these shows being on. But I guess the one thing that's unique about these shows, because this just occurred to me, is no other television shows, no other pieces of media in this format have like 75 to 150 years of like 150? No, maybe not quite that many. Like 100 years of storytelling behind them, right? Not 100 years, 75, like for a lot of them. But or 50, like decades and decades and decades of not. It's not like I like Sleepy Hollow, right? But like, dude wrote that story, and it's just been the same story, like iterated upon over the years. Like it's not like 50 years. I think Luke Cage debuted like in the 60s. It's not 50 years of storytelling constantly evolving that character. So yeah, it's pretty interesting, and it creates an interesting dynamic. I'm wondering if they should have dropped it a little sooner and made it kind of like a back to school thing. Because everybody's, if you have kids, your schedule changes radically, right? When kids go back to school and you start ferrying them, and rush hour traffic is different, whether you have kids or not. So I'm wondering if maybe tactically they should have dropped this maybe like mid-August. So at any rate, episode number 5, warning, this is a review show. We will be doing, if I can ever speak effectively, we will be talking spoilers. So in this episode, we're kind of in the wake of the Crispus Attucks assault, and then in the aftermath of that, and basically, Cottonmouth decides that to get back at Luke Cage, kind of very, very much a Sheriff of Nottingham kind of response, right? Cottonmouth decides that he's going to squeeze the people of Harlem, blame it on Luke Cage, and attempt to turn public opinion against him. So Luke basically puts on his ass-kicking shoes and goes walking around the neighborhood, literally walking around the neighborhood to set things right, just giving people the beat down along the way. And then one of the things I love about this episode is the pacing. And usually when we say pacing, we like the directors who are able to handle the nuance of kind of moving you back and forth, and sometimes like shockingly, you're kind of lulling you into a sense of complacency and then shifting the pace and making your heart race. But I really like kind of the bifurcated episode here, where it's kind of almost two different shows, right? The first part is just Luke Cage kicking butt. And then in the second half, we move to, and it kind of starts, I think the turn is kind of when he goes into the sports shop where he's been trying to return the young lady's ring, and sees her father there, who was a baseball great out of Harlem and has since turned to alcohol, and kind of gives him not too in your face, but definitely a lecture telling him to be a better person, be the person that his daughter looks up to. And the rest of the episode is really, a kind of talking heads episode, right? Culminating in the speeches that both Cottonmouth and Luke Cage give on the dais at Pops' funeral. So, just overall, Pete, how what were your major takeaways from this episode and your feelings overall?
Trying to remember it back. Let's see. So I liked the actually, I think my favorite part of this episode was Claire coming back.
Right.
And I think she is what really ties the Netflix MCU together. So far, she's been in all three of the Netflix MCU shows, and she's the one that keeps referencing everyone else for the most part. And then, man, that speech that Cage delivers for the eulogy, I think, that was just icing on the cake right there.
Yeah, do you kind of feel like she's kind of becoming? Is she the Agent Coulson of the Netflix universe?
God, I hope not. That means they're going to kill her. I don't think she's the Coulson necessarily. Well, no, I guess, yeah, in a way she's, because Coulson was kind of the heart that tied everything together in the movies, and now we've got Claire, who's taking on this role of forcing everyone to be better. So yeah, I kind of feel like you're right. She is the Coulson type character in the Netflix universe.
Cool. Dave.
Yes.
Overall feelings, takeaways, major takeaways from episode 5?
Episode 5, the eulogy was really good. I like seeing Claire come back. I can't actually remember. Like, those are the only things that I really remember that were takeaway. I think episode 6 stuck more in my mind. I think I might be getting these mixed up, but episode 5, was that the one? No, I think it's the beginning of 6 is where Scarf gets shot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we do find out in this episode that that Lieutenant Perez is associated with whatever Scarf might be associated with, whatever Scarf is doing at this point. There's a scene with the two of them meeting on a bench, and Scarf. I think this is where Perez tells Scarf that he needs to get the weapons out of lockup, and Scarf mentions that it would be a lot easier to just get rid of Cottonmouth. Now, at this point, I'm sort of back off a little bit on my radical conspiracy theories on Luke Cage, because I think the show is just a lot more basic than maybe the rest of the Marvel universe is.
Oh, wait.
Go ahead.
Oh, number 5 is the one where they talk more about Diamondback, right?
They talk a little bit about Diamondback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that was really good, because I honestly think Diamondback. Well, I have 2 theories. Like, I don't know what you guys. I think he's going to be a main villain. I think for season 2, because I kind of looked ahead, I didn't see any mention of him coming up. So I think he's probably, we're going to know, I think my idea is he's somebody that we don't know about yet who's super powered too, and possibly maybe part of, I don't know, X-Shield Hydra, and possibility too, that's just his nickname for Kingpin and the black culture.
So yeah, and there's and yeah, I have a few thoughts along those lines as well. You know, that scene on the bench with Perez and Scarf, when Scarf mentions it would be a lot easier to get rid of him, that doesn't sound to me like just a cop on the take, right? That sounds like a cop on the take who might have direction from somebody higher than him to do something.
Ooh,
and so
I didn't think about that.
And so at that point, I'm thinking, and again, I've had a couple of these Shield theories, right? Like I was wondering, like, is Reva like a Shield agent or a rogue Shield agent? When she wiped his ID, I mentioned that last episode. But here, I'm thinking, are Scarf and Perez some kind of like rogue Shield agents that have been a part of some conspiracy, like maintain the balance of power, like in Harlem or different sectors of New York or something? So that was one theory, and then I also, like you mentioned, you know, Diamondback is like a code name, and is he superpowered? I get thoroughly confused in this whole setup. So in the Captain America comics in the 80s, there was this group called the Serpent Society, who all had the same names: Cottonmouth, Diamondback, Sidewinder, all these different snake names. And like every time these guys use one of these names, I'm like, is this really from like Power Man like history, like in the comics, or did they like abscond with these Captain American villain names and just apply them to these like low-level street thugs? So that always gets me wrapped around the axle. But
so I did some research on that.
Excellent.
And because I sometimes have no life, Diamondback did appear in the original Luke Cage run, and he was. I can't remember if he's a villain or not.
Okay. But he was just a regular dude, though.
No, well, he had a costume.
Okay, but he wasn't part of the Serpent Society, I guess.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That whole thing's just weird. So, at any rate, Jonathan, major takeaways from episode 5.
Yeah, I agree with Dave and Pete. I was really glad to see Rosario Dawson come back. It was for a brief time in episode 5, and more so she appeared more throughout 6. But I was just glad just to see her. I said, finally, not only that she connected, but for me, as I've gone through it, I'm like, I need something to kind of hook me in. And I was like, okay, maybe she could be the kind of my way in to really getting into Luke Cage. So I was glad to see her, and I liked it. I liked episode 5. It was a good episode. It was solid. And I've been very underwhelmed by what's his name, Cottonmouth as a villain. I'm glad he's arrested. I mean, I know he's gonna start toying around more in the coming episodes, but he's just not a good villain at all. He's not compelling. He's not interesting whatsoever.
Yeah.
I like the actor. I really do, because from House of Cards, I enjoy him as a performer, but he doesn't feel like a threat. I think I mentioned this last week. He does not feel like a threat to Luke Cage whatsoever.
Yeah,
and I think when it works with the heroes, like, you got to feel like the hero is threatened in some way.
Right. I mean, we talk about this all the time. I am not always in concurrence, but this is the weakness of the Marvel stuff, right? The lack of superpower of super powerful performances from villains, right? I think Fisk in Daredevil stands out. Purple Man, right, in Jessica Jones stands out. But people have often mentioned in the movies, that they don't. You really have to hate a villain, right? That's what makes these things like really emotional, and it's something that the Flash does well, I think. So yeah, it's probably, and it's I've been waiting for somebody to call me on it, but I don't. So in my reviews that I post, usually when I do movie and TV show reviews, I include like the big headliner stars, or the recognizables, or just people that you may have seen in other series in the starring blurb at the top of my review. And I don't include this actor's name because I don't like because he's very clear. I could play that role, you know. So, and that's always kind of my whenever there's an actor and I feel like they could have cast anybody for that. That's where they don't hold a lot of traction for me. So let's go ahead and move on to episode 6. Suckers need bodyguards. So, so
was that fun to say?
It was. So in this episode, if you were sitting on the edge of your seat, you definitely got knocked onto the floor, like in the first 3 minutes. Because right off the bat, Cottonmouth shoots Detective Scarf. And I was just starting. Well, I think I mentioned I think it was in episode 3 that he gave a speech to Misty about, hey, we should cut this guy a break. He's doing something good for the community. Who really cares if he's operating inside the rules? Of course, then like 5 minutes later, he strangles Chico. So I'm like, oh, maybe I don't like this guy so much. And so there was a brief flash where he was kind of moving towards the top of my list. And I like, I think, is it Frank Whaley? Yeah, I like the actor Frank Whaley. I felt like he's been underutilized. In this episode, he gets shot, and there's a brief bit of sunlight in kind of him following a path towards redemption, as it turns out, is slowly losing his life. But basically, he shows up. Whaley decides that he's going to play him because he thinks Cottonmouth's cred is on the wane, and tries to squeeze him for another $100,000 as Cottonmouth is trying to claim Domingo's guns to return them to Domingo and set things right with him, but also I think get his hands on the Judas weapon from Hammer Industries. And so the show basically becomes that. It's kind of like a big escort mission, if you understand that reference to video games. But basically, Scarf gets shot, makes his way to the barbershop, and requests asylum from Cage and Night Nurse. And Night Nurse proceeds to attempt to save his life, and then Cage tries to get them to safety. As this unfolds, Scarf tells him that he has a notebook back in his apartment that has incriminating notes on Cottonmouth. Cage goes to get that, and then tries to escort Scarf to one police plaza in the center. I think it's in the center of Manhattan, which is the headquarters of the NYPD. So it definitely has, like I said, an escort mission feel to it. Has a bit of an Escape from New York feel to it. And I didn't. This episode for me was a solid episode. I scored it a 7.5, which is kind of my referential score for just being a sco shy from greatness. But those were the things I liked mainly. Is the Scarf, moments of redemption that were in this episode. So, Dave, what were your overall feelings on episode 6?
I thought it was a little bit better. I liked the fact how we saw the councilwoman got really shook by the media. That was unexpected. And I think, I liked how Luke Cage, is starting to look more like a hero in more people's eyes. And I liked how that episode started with another reference to Jessica Jones, where we started hearing Triss talk about Luke Cage, so that was pretty cool. And of course, we got to see more of Claire. And yeah, I was kind of hoping like Cottonmouth would be wrapped up, but I started watching a little bit of episode 7, and unfortunately, there's going to be more Cottonmouth. Hope I didn't see too much.
Yeah, one of the things I noted in this episode, and it improves from here, just to give a little bit of foreshadowing from stuff coming up. But I have been castigating Alfre Woodard's performance throughout this show, and I felt like it started to make a step up in this episode. She reveals a bit of, I don't know if it's schizophrenia or PTSD or whatever, but some type of mental imbalance. She knocks over a picture of Mom Mabel and starts screaming at the picture. As if Mom Mabel kind of haunts her in her adult life, even though Mabel has since left this mortal coil.
And we also, we also find out who Mama Mabel really was and that whole history, which was super really cool.
Yeah, so she's basically a mobster, along with a partner of hers named Uncle Pete. What's really sinister, and I think Jonathan mentioned something about somebody presenting themselves as the real villain. There is a point in the is it the Millennium Club that is Cottonmouth's club?
Oh, that's Harlem Paradise.
Harlem Paradise. Okay, so there's a scene in Cottonmouth's office in Harlem Paradise where Councilwoman Dillard is obviously shaken and really wants Cottonmouth to take care of things, and Cottonmouth says, "Look, the guy's bulletproof. I've seen it. It's real." And she goes, "Can he breathe water?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Drown him. Does he burn? Can he burn? What about a woman? Can you get to him through?" And I'm like, this chick is really twisted. Like Cottonmouth is, and we talk about this like a lot, like in the workplace or even in more operational organizations like the military. You have your guys who are your blunt instruments, right? You just send them in to get things done, kick down doors, and then you have kind of your silent and your cerebral assassins, right? People who are don't use the blunt tools but are really sinister underneath the surface, and that's what I felt like it was a dynamic that came out in that exchange. Like you said, Jonathan, like Cottonmouth doesn't really scare you. Like what he's going to do. It's kind of funny in that opening scene how Scarf just kind of stands around, often in close proximity to Cottonmouth, and I'm like, dude, he's going to reach out and punch you at some point, right? But Councilwoman Dillard, I feel like you don't know what she's going to do. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So Peter, what were your overall takeaways from this episode?
Before I go into that, I'd like to say, having watched the entire series, it's really hard not to talk about your guys' theories here.
It is. It's hard for me, and I'm just up through episode 8. So to being 2 episodes ahead, it's hard to talk about this as if you don't know what's going to happen afterwards. But I'm trying.
Yeah. It's fun to hear all your theories, though. All right. My general takeaway from this is that it's really setting the stage for the real players, because you get those glimpses of Dillard's, what goes on in her mind. You start to see, is this the episode? Oh man, Shades is in this episode, right?
Yeah, he is in this episode. I think I know what you're thinking about. There's a discussion that Shades had that has not occurred yet.
Okay.
There's a one-on-one discussion featuring Shades. If that's the one you're thinking about, he hasn't had that discussion yet.
No, I think he has, because Shades gets upset about with Stokes, right? For killing the cop. There's that conversation.
But that doesn't. So at the end of this episode, Cottonmouth gets arrested. I think what you're thinking about happens after the arrest.
Well, anyway. All right, but I think Dillard being interviewed by the media, I think that was a really good scene, because when you invite the press into your home, you probably ought to expect they're going to snoop around a little. I mean, they're gonna film something, and they're gonna try and get a story. As I'm sure that our journalism major over there would agree, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that it showed how very naive that Dillard truly is right now. You know, she thinks people kind of, it seems to me she thinks people really kind of buy this "I'm just a politician, my cousin is his own man" kind of thing. But just the tenacity of that reporter just nailing her to the wall. It was really good, really perfect in my opinion.
All right, Jonathan, what are your thoughts on episode 6? And we got a book. We're right at 30 minutes. Take us out.
This episode, I liked and Luke, seeing him really for the first time, besides just slapping guys around, you could see how far he can take it. And I love that line she has with him at the end where he says, "You want to go get coffee?" And she's like, "I'm not going to sleep with you."
Right. I love that ending.
And she's asked him before that, she's like, you know, don't you want to try to see how far you can push yourself? I mean, just seeing, you know, when that car was coming to them, I said, oh, well, he's going to die. And then that's their way of getting her out. And then when he just jumps in front of the car and smashes, I was like, that was one of the coolest things I've seen on the show so far. And you know, the grenade thing like bouncing off him and stuff. I mean, the action was well done in this show, in this episode. And then I really throughout this series I've been waiting for Alfre Woodard to an actress she is, and I thought this was the first time that you really saw it.
Right. Yeah.
She was really good, and when that scene where he was like about Cage, you know, and she, like you said, how she broke down. Oh, does he burn? Did you try and poison him? I was like, wow, okay. It was very tense, very, very tense. So, yeah, I liked her performance too very much. And I don't know if they were trying to go for the emotional impact with what's his face?
Scarf.
Detective Scarf, yeah. I didn't care. I don't feel anything for Misty Knight either. I actually don't like her.
Oh.
I'm just like, okay. Gonna make me feel pity for you or what? But the only character I really side with is Luke through this whole thing.
Right. Well, definitely.
I guess that's definitely a plus for the show. But yeah, so
yeah,
I liked it.
We'll definitely be talking about pity and compassion for characters when we do episode 4, covering episode 7 and 8, because there are definitely some vectors there that need to be discussed. So, anybody have anything? I guess the only thing I was going to add is it also just occurred to me that that scene between Alfre and Cottonmouth. It reminds me very much of kind of shows that are set in like a Roman setting, or maybe it's just some kind of historical setting, and it's very akin to a male ruler and kind of a female relative or his wife like in his ear who's really the evil behind the throne. Yeah, so kind of very Games of Thrones-ish. Right, in terms of Cersei and I don't know what his name is. I always call him Draco Malfoy, the young blonde king who's yeah. So at any rate, so join us next week for episode number 4, where we will be covering Luke Cage episodes 7 and 8. As always, you can catch all of us on Twitter. You can follow me at Agasicles Stamas. That's one word, 2 S's in the middle. You can catch at Edrickson Tarot if you want to follow Peter Morrow. That's an underscore in the middle of Edrickson and Tarot. You can follow at Wordy Nerdy to catch Jonathan Reyes, and you can follow at Comic Book Guy 90 to catch Mr. Dave Pecci. Thanks very much, everybody, and we will be back next week. For now, we are out.